I always joke and say that any good PR professional really is your therapist, your priest, your lawyer, your best friend.
Welcome to Celebrity Focus Insiders with your host, Rick Backrack.
Amanda Samaan is the founder, president, chief cook, and bottle washer for Revolver PR, and she has set quite a footprint in her time in the industry. She's also a consultant and marketing specialist for the Boras Corporation, and she has a wealth of experience both in public relations and in marketing and connecting brands with personalities. So we're going to dive into that today. Amanda, thanks for being here. I know you cringe anytime you hear somebody refer to what you do as being a publicist. So I want to talk a little bit. What's different? What's different about what you do and what's distinctive?
In terms of publicist versus PR professional, I think we don't have that negative connotation of perhaps hiding things that maybe be a little more uncouth or illegal. So that's a key differentiator, I believe, in publicist versus PR professional. We really help to position our clients and amplify their brands to create opportunities. And so that's a vast difference, I think, between publicist and PR pro.
So you've specialized in sports, entertainment, music, as well as the work that you've done with lifestyle and consumer brands. What do you love about each of those different parts of the business? What are the common touch points?
I've always grown up a sports fan, and I bleed purple and gold for my Lakers and Dodger blue. So you can obviously tell where I'm based out of. But I learned very late in my college career about PR, having transitioned from pre-med over to communications. And once I learned you could marry the two things I loved the most, that was kind of the direction I decided my career would go into and work towards it ever since, and really expanding into entertainment and lifestyle brands they work really well, very cohesively between sports as well. There's a lot of crossover. We really love, and I think what sets us apart the most is really taking two things that seemingly don't go together, like Pella windows and doors and a professional surfer that's known around the world, and putting them together and creating really great viral campaigns. So that's a really great example of something we've done that really takes sports, entertainment, lifestyle brands, and meshes them all together for really memorable and some pretty epic experiences.
So, I know you've worked with a lot of different people. We'll come back. We'll talk about sports in a little bit, but I want to focus a little bit on lifestyle. You've worked with folks ranging from like a director like Johnny Zeller to people like Freddie Georges. Talk a little bit about those relationships and how you work with them and what you're trying to accomplish there.
Yeah, with personalities like Johnny Zeller, who is an incredible director and storyteller, we really work with people like him because we work with producers and directors and anyone behind the camera for the most part in terms of entertainment outside of music, of course. But our relationship really begins in getting to know them extremely well, essentially becoming a subject matter expert in who they are, so then we can do our jobs the best to our ability to ensure success. And it really is, I always joke and say that any good PR professional really is your therapist, your priest, your lawyer, your best friend, because the more that you can disclose to us, the better we can help and serve you. It also helps that we aren't caught off guard with anything. I remember an instance with Johnny. I don't think he'll mind me saying it, but there was a very well-known woman that they were romantically linked together, and who was very concerned about the public perception, having worked together in a project about them maybe having any kind of nepotism involved, which wasn't the case at all. And so you're really helping to navigate and counsel them through that, in that, I'm always a believer in being your true authentic self. And if that was a direction they both wanted to go in, that we would deal with whatever might come of it, and always prepping for what we can, hoping for the worst, prepping for the worst. So that's definitely an example of how we like to work with some of our personalities.
So, regardless of whether it's personalities or brands, because you represent both,
We do.
what are you typically trying to accomplish as you sit down and you develop strategy for the client? Again, I used the phrase earlier, what are the common touch points? But there are, in fact, common touch points in the approach that people, professionals undertake. What are the things you're typically trying to accomplish for your client?
Always creating opportunity through our storytelling. So some of the touch points can really be everything from being involved on set while they're filming things, whether it's a set or an event, like what Freddie Georges produces in her experiential marketing campaigns for her clients that range all over the globe. To really be there, to be boots on the ground, that's a really great touch point for us to really get to know projects, the clients, the storylines. And a lot of times clients don't necessarily know what might be media worthy. And so being there with them, we can pick things out that might help us with media releases later, or capturing behind the scenes footage. So when a film comes out, we have everything we need to really help promote it, and provide for any media interviews. Obviously, a lot of broadcast is involved in that. So capturing some B-roll and really being an advocate for them on set or at an event as well. We're also really great at wrangling opportunity, especially if you're at trade shows or networking events. If I ever meet someone or come across someone that would be a great connection for clients, I have no hesitation or stranger danger in bringing them over to make an immediate connection and really watching things flourish from there. And so those are some of the touch points that we have with our clients, among a variety of others. But I think having that personal touch with clients in these industries is really key. It really helps build that trust. And without trust, you really aren't able to tell the stories. You're not able to get information that you might need, or assets and things like that. So it really does begin with trust, and being able to keep things confidential when needed, so that you have longevity in the world of PR.
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. I've got lots of other questions. And Amanda, when we come out of break, we're going to talk a little bit about more about Johnny and a program specifically that you were involved with. I think it was for MasterCard, but we'll take this short break. We'll be right back. And that's what we call teasing that next segment. Stay with us, and we'll see you back here in a minute. Welcome back. Amanda, you've done award-winning work. And one of the things you've won awards for, I think it was a Clio Award, in fact, was a program that you worked on. I know Johnny Zeller was involved with that, and Carrie Underwood as well. Talk a little bit about that. Share the story of that program, that campaign, because I think that was a really great convergence of talent and brand.
That was definitely one of my favorite campaigns I think that we've done. That was a 4 or 5 way collaboration between a few different brands. Mastercard, as one of their Priceless Moments campaigns, partnered with American Airlines, Carrie Underwood, and an influencer that we actually included in part of that campaign, who is a huge Carrie Underwood fan. But I think part of what made that story so successful and had such a great emotional tie to the audience really was that um, being able to have Carrie Underwood incorporated, but having her personal story integrated. We filmed it in LA at the Orpheum Theater, which is actually her first time ever performing, if you remember back on American Idol, uh, as a signed artist. And so it was coming a full circle moment about 10 years later where she was able to have another performance that was private to just MasterCard card holder members, and really giving them something special. You could really feel her heart in it, the energy. She's an incredibly talented musician and singer. I think everyone's heard her voice and it's very captivating, but she puts on such an incredible show. And having that relayed as part of the story of a priceless moment that she remembers, that she could never forget, that really was brought to life by MasterCard, and featured on American Airlines flights across the nation after that campaign. The brilliant mind of Johnny Zeller as the director really helped put that together. And it was a lot of fun. We had a fan engagement portion, but what people don't know is that we really did film this as a live concert. So it's not a typical commercial where you can run things back and do several instant replays, retakes, set up different sets or anything like that. This was a live show. And so to have Johnny be such an incredible leader on the project with the crew and everyone behind the scenes and Carrie's team, as well as MasterCard and American Airlines, was really quite the feat. And so when you see that end result, there's just so much that goes into it that is really unlike a lot of other Priceless Moment commercials or different things that you might see for different campaigns from other brands. But it was such a great experience. She's a sweetheart, and hopefully we'll work together again.
I love it. We're going to switch gears now. We are going to talk sports for just a little bit. I mentioned earlier that you have been working with baseball super agent Scott Boras for a long, long time, and we both know Scott. But you've been a marketing and communications consultant to the Boras Corporation for many years. Uh, we all think in terms of athlete marketing and athlete representation, let's say with public relations, but Scott's a great example of integration of his, I don't want to say charitable interest, but talk a little bit about the tournament and what Scott gives back to the game, and how he's made his practice to some degree a lightning rod for good beyond the work that he does.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the things about him that most people don't know about. He is such a giving and very kind human being, and very different than what I think the media makes him out to be. He started his foundation decades ago, and one of his keystone events that he hosts really is focused around giving back to the baseball community that's given him so much. Some folks may not know that he was actually a player in the MLB for a while before becoming an agent. And a side fun fact, he actually has his PhD in pharmaceutical law, or his JD rather. And so a lot of people always wonder how he made his way to sports. But he just was that good, and his friends really needed some great representation. And that's kind of how it started. And so from there, his mission has always been to give back to the communities across the country. And the Boras Baseball Classic that he started, this will be our 11th year working on that with them, is really about providing a platform for young athletes to really showcase their skills, to either get collegiate scholarships or pursue their career at the professional level. And what's great about it is he's actually the only tournament in the nation that hosts something of this caliber that covers the cost to every athlete who comes through there. So that way they're not inhibited by any financial constraints. And we've had over 10,000 athletes come through, and it's been such an incredible experience and journey. And that's become nationally recognized as one of the top. There's actually 3 versions, and they hold all 3 tournaments are in the top 5 tournaments in the nation. And so we're very proud of that. And it really is because of Scott's vision and working towards putting the right people in the right places to make it happen. And we've since added a 14U tournament, and we do youth clinics for kids under the age of 8, where we bring out some of our MLB athletes to help host and give just an incredible experience to these kids to encourage them to keep going. He's a big advocate for education and really believes in sport, and any sport really being an avenue to further your education, which is important to a lot of the kids in underserved communities who come through all the different work that he does through the foundation.
And I think you make a great point. Scott's reputation, of course, is what it is because of how good he is at what he does. People don't always love that. There's a lot of jealousy in that business, but he does so much good that does not get recognized. And I think that's an important thing. I think and Scott's not unique in that way. I think there's a lot of sports executives and other agents who do great things. But I think what he does is on such a grand scale, and it really does help so many people that it's important that it be talked about and be promoted. I won't ask you to name names. You've worked with a lot of celebrities throughout the years, and I think one of the things I do want you to talk about is this. What do you think makes a great relationship between talent and a brand? What do you look for, and what do you think makes those great?
I think it really starts off with the brand showing themselves as human and not necessarily this kind of obscure logo and not really any faces behind it. It goes into relationships and trust at the very impetus of any collaboration or brand endorsement, and really getting to know what the athlete cares about, and then leaning into that, leaning into their personalities. If they're funny, like Shaq, we don't work with Shaq, but he's a good example. I think a lot of people would know in that, he is a goofy character and he loves to give back. He loves to do things outside of the box. He knows that his size plays into kind of the comedic relief that he has. And he's been able to partner with a lot of brands who fully understand that and embrace it and leverage that to reach their audience for whatever the case may be, whether it's icy hot or printing ink, which I think are hilarious commercials. But they've done such a great job of that, and really getting to know who the athlete is and their personality and leaning into that and not making them be something that they aren't. I think brands are getting a little bit more flexible versus having scripts for them to read. They're not actors, they're athletes. So I think if you give them some talking points and allow them to make it their own, that's really where you'll see things soar. But it really does begin with that relationship and that trust factor and being human on the brand side, because I think that's oftentimes what gets lost in translation is that athletes are these superhumans and that they aren't actually human off the field or court or racetrack or whatever the case may be.
And I know you and I have talked in the past about the fact that endorsement work, promotional work is not for everybody. We've seen pretty extreme cases. Mike Trout is one I can think of. I don't know if he's someone you've worked with in the past, but there are just some people who take the position that I really don't want to do that. I just want to play football. I just want to play baseball, and I'm not into all the other stuff. So you talked about the things that the brand should look for. There probably are some things that brands should stay away from. So if you're providing counsel to a brand, can you identify even just one or two things that a brand should really look for and steer clear of when they're considering a relationship?
Some of the things brands should definitely be on the lookout for is first, do your research. I can't emphasize that enough. Research, research, research. It's really what will help you understand them and also allow you the opportunity before reaching out to the athlete or their team to understand whether they are a good fit or not. If things seemingly seem fine when you do your research and you do reach out, allow it to be a collaborative effort. Don't necessarily always come with your very stringent idea of what the relationship will look like. Have it be a conversation and go from there and really build campaigns together. That's part of what makes Johnny Zeller so successful in everything that he does is he does allow the creative process to be more collaborative versus coming in and having kind of a ruling with an iron fist, if you will. And he does that in three different ways between his creative process, the brands, and then the talents. And that is something that brands should also consider is the team of people they bring in to create these campaigns and bring them to life matters a lot because the athlete will need to also be able to have a trust factor and be able to communicate and work with the director, even if it's a photo shoot or a commercial or whatever the case may be. Those are all really important factors I think brands don't necessarily think about until they get so far down the line. And I've seen a lot of brand deals come apart because of the fact that they don't bring in the right teams, even if the relationship seems to be pretty smooth. And that's an expensive mistake to make for any brand.
For sure. Let's finish with this, and that's advice. If you were going to offer up some advice for talent, for brand management, whether that's at the CMO level or any level that's in charge of really orchestrating a talent brand relationship, and for practitioners, whether that's marketing specialists or PR professionals, what's some different advice that you think can serve each of those groups?
Gosh, well, I think for PR practitioners, I definitely encourage going to law school. I haven't, but I've learned from experience that's actually would be really helpful. We do work with a lot of legal teams. We review contracts on a daily basis. And, we are also responsible for executing on those contracts. So being able to know and understand what's inside of those is key to any relationship. I think same on the brand side is that it's okay if someone says no, there are other avenues to take. Trying to force something to happen will only have lower ROI, which I know is obviously important for everyone involved, but really learning to be human and treat everyone, and this goes on every side, whether you're an athlete or a brand or a PR practitioner or anything in between, that we are all human first. And if you lead with that approach and come from a place of empathy and understanding, you'll be able to make really beautiful, successful campaigns and great, impactful things to both your consumers, your audience, your fans. And that's something that we really helped a lot with back in 2020 with a lot of NFL teams asking us of how do they help their athletes be seen as humans in the eyes of their fans who are the consumer base. And as long as you lead with that and treat everyone with respect, I think that you will really be able to see great things happen. It's not just allowing a seat at the table for athletes because they are very well educated and smart and know their brands well. It's allowing for that space for them to be able to speak up and what they're saying be received. So then you can really move forward in such a successful way.
Amanda, thank you so much for joining me. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but I've got like a dozen more questions. So I think this is going to be volume one. We'll come back and have a volume two. For our viewers, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Celebrity Focus Insiders. Check out somewhere around the screen, there's a button that says subscribe here. Sign up. We're going to be releasing new episodes every week. We'll be back next week with another one. And I hope you'll join us again. In the meantime, we'll see you soon.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Celebrity Focus Insiders, connecting famous people with famous brands. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date and check out our past episodes at celebrityfocus.com.